For the past few days, Stormy Daniels' lawyer, perhaps you've heard of him, and nonstop Donald Trump antagonist Michael Avenatti has been teasing a bombshell story, tweeting out images showing a Qatari investor entering Trump Tower, with Avenatti claiming that that investor, Ahmed al-Rumahi, later bragged about bribing Trump administration officials. That's the claim. A spokesperson confirmed to NBC News today that al-Rumahi really was indeed in that elevator. He did meet with Trump transition officials in Trump Tower during the transition, December 2016. And then, just a short time ago, we got this. The Daily Mail reporting, I'm quoting here, Michael Cohen asked Qatari investor for millions of dollars, which he said he would pass to Trump family members at that Trump Tower meeting. Now, that is obviously a huge deal if it's true. We don't know if it is yet. The story, I should note, is sourced to a single unnamed Kuwaiti source, and the Daily Mail, which is a British tabloid, has a somewhat mixed record, doesn't always hew to the facts. It did break some important stories, including Trump aide Rob Porter's spousal abusal, which led to Porter's resignation. With you now to make sense of this and a whole bunch of other stuff in the news today, newly minted MSNBC legal analyst Mimi Rocha, former assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. Also with me, Yahoo News chief investigative correspondent Michael Isikoff, co-author of the best-selling Russian Roulette, the inside story of Putin's war on America and the election of Donald Trump. And Michael, let me start with you. That Daily Mail story is sourced to a single anonymous Kuwaiti official recounting a conversation he says he had with this individual after the meeting in Trump Tower. What do you make of it?
Hard to know. Look, as crass as Michael Cohen has been, it's hard to imagine that even he would advertise the fact that he was going to pay off Trump family members to a foreign national. I mean, it just, Cohen clearly, works at the edges, was pretty crude in the way he shook down American companies, but, advertising he's going to, funnel funds to the first family seems something even he would know is not advisable.
What I would say is I would need a lot more confirmation to believe the story. What does seem clear is that it seems totally possible and almost sort of obvious that Michael Cohen was probably hanging a lot on Trump Tower a lot during that period, trolling for business, now that we've learned his MO.
Right. And look, there is a significant and potentially ominous development for him this week with the news that this former Ukrainian lawmaker, Artemenko, who devised this pro-Russian peace plan that was going to offer an opportunity for the Russians to lease Crimea from Ukraine for 50 to 100 years, that he is going to testify before Mueller's grand jury. For one thing, that shows that the legal troubles facing Cohen are both not just in the Southern District, but also continuing in the Mueller investigation itself. And the fact that a foreign national like Artemenko would be willing to accept a subpoena and testify suggests that he is in some way cooperating with Mueller's investigation. He doesn't have to fly over to Washington to testify before a grand jury. Mueller doesn't have compulsory power to force him to do so. So I think that's probably an ominous development for Cohen as well.
As someone who is a prosecutor in the Southern District, what do you think of that?
I think that's right, and I think it's interesting that sort of each little fact that comes out is, we get closer and closer to it being verified. I mean, as you said, this is only one source about this claim about the millions of dollars. But, first it started with a photograph. Now we have confirmation
that he was in the building, right?
Right. And we have confirmation from Artemenko that, he's being subpoenaed. And in fact, he did meet with Cohen. So, we're trying to connect the dots, and we only have about 3 dots. Mueller's connecting the dots, and he's got a lot more to connect.
How hard is it to get? I mean, what does it mean when I was surprised, too, when I saw that Artemenko, again, this Ukrainian politician who sort of pitched this peace plan that would lift sanctions that was carried through Michael Cohen back to the Trump White House. How hard is it, or how unusual is it to get someone like that to fly in for grand jury testimony?
Well, Michael's right. There's no grand jury compulsory process in another country. But if he ever wanted to come here again, which it sounds like he does for business and other purposes, he could be served with a subpoena then. So,
Right.
To me,
You're not without leverage if you're Mueller in this situation.
Right, unless he never wants to set foot and do business here again, and it doesn't sound like he's that kind of person. So, it sounds like it probably would have happened inevitably anyway. I mean, obviously, look, he might have other leverage over him. We don't know, but that's one way to get someone who's out of the country to come now on your timeline. Is look, if you ever want to come back here, you're going to have to do it then. So you might as well do it now.
The other thing about Artemenko, Michael, coming and coming to the grand jury is that the White House has tried very hard to say, look, they've already gotten through the collusion stuff. There's no collusion. Now there's all this talk about obstruction. Artemenko flying to the U.S. on a Friday to talk to a grand jury doesn't really square with that.
No, and let's remember why this is potentially significant. Artemenko gives this peace plan for the lifting of sanctions in exchange for, these various concessions to the Russians to Felix Sater, the longtime Trump business associate, who then gives it to Cohen, who then allegedly gives it to Michael Flynn. Now, why are those characters still of interest to Mueller? Remember, it was Sater and Cohen who were trying to do that second Trump Tower business deal. While Trump was running for president, they were pursuing this business arrangement to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, something the American voters knew nothing about, but we learned well after the election. And also, remember, this is February 2017. This is during a period when the Trump White House is pursuing the idea of lifting sanctions on Russia without any concession on the Russians' part. And, the fact that that came right after the election, after everything that happened during the election, clearly Mueller is trying to connect those dots.
All right, Mimi Rocha and Michael Isikoff, thank you both for being with me.